Today we're talking main events, the most important match on the card. And you want to make sure that if you get there, you stay there. So here is exactly what makes a main event match great and what makes it different to the rest of the card. Welcome back to BEATER Wrestling. As I said, main events are the most important match on the card. Regardless of how the rest of the show's gone, if your main event falls flat, the crowd are burnt out, or they didn't appreciate it, they didn't follow along with it, then they're probably going to leave the show feeling a bit flat, and they may not come back. We want to give them a good feeling, so they want to come back for more. I think there's definitely a common main event style, I guess you would call it, that you see worldwide, and it's less about an actual style in itself, and it's more just about the added possibilities that a main event brings. Now, first, let me talk about the limitations of a main event. The show might have been going long, people are tired, they've already seen everything done before you on a 7, 8, 9 match card. But we also have something that is super unique to any other match on the card, and that is time and freedom. Sure, that crowd might have seen absolutely every single move and spot in pro wrestling history, but uniqueness is about more than just moves and spots. And you need to challenge yourself as the main event talent to find uniqueness in whatever environment you're in. And that can come in a lot of different forms. First, let's talk about time. And time is something that you will probably get a lot of as a main eventer, but you don't want to abuse that time. Every extra minute that you're out there in the ring doing something that doesn't really have a purpose is another minute that the crowd might getting bored, tired, and burnt out. But what time allows us to do is to build tension. Now, main event matches are often matches that have a lot of drama. It's where you want to go a little bit different to the classic 3-act structure of shine, heat, go home. You might want to stretch things out a little bit, build that tension so you can pay it off greater down the track. You might zig when the crowd thinks you'll zag. You'll have a few extra twists and turns along the way. So when I'm looking at main event structure, that's usually where I start. How can we use time wisely? How can we use time to make this match different to anything else we've seen on the show? So I might think about the start of a match, and instead of just going to a stock standard shine where the babyface does their little running spot and we go straight to a cutoff, maybe we extend that out. Maybe the heel cuts off the babyface and it looks like it's the heat, but the babyface keeps getting back on top. They get cut off, they get back on top. And that builds the frustration and tension in the heel. Or maybe in the heat, instead of keeping it short and simple, you add more hope spots and you make those hope spots progressively more believable. Or maybe in the go home, you add those extra near falls, those big false finishes, and you really bring that emotion up to a 5th gear. Much of this comes down to having twists and turns that the audience doesn't expect. In a regular 8-minute match, you generally don't have time to swerve the audience in different directions. You kind of do need to keep it simple to get the right outcome. But in the main event, you have the benefit of this crowd having seen 6 or 7 matches that all had very similar structures, all had very similar storytelling tropes. And now you can go a completely different direction to catch them off guard. Much of pro wrestling psychology is based around expectation, pattern building, and then breaking those patterns. And by the way, if the topic of main event psychology is something that interests you, we've actually been addressing it in my live trainings over on the worldbeaterwrestling.com Patreon. Check it out. So what I often tell people who are just kind of coming into those main events is don't be afraid to break out of your comfort zone. Try something new, try a different formula. Don't just stick to the same 8 to 10 minute formula you've been doing for the last 5 years. But even though we have those possibilities, we have time, we can mess with the structure, we can break people's expectations, this doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the response you want. The main event's also the most important match on the card from a character sense, in that most main events will have some sort of higher stakes, whether it be title matches, title opportunities, some kind of personal vendetta, or some kind of major obstacles characters need to overcome. So you want to make sure as soon as you step through that curtain and in everything you do in the match, that audience can sense exactly how important that match is for you. We're not just slowing this match down in points to kill time or let things play out just for the sake of it. We're doing it because your character believes that this is the most important match of their life and they can't make a single mistake. So they're more cautious with the way they act and the way they move. And if you've been put in that position, but there are no real obvious stakes in front of you, then you've got to create them for yourself. Why is this match important to your character? What does your character believe they will gain by winning this match or overcoming the obstacle in front of them? You've got social media, you've got promos, you can talk it up yourself. You don't need a promotion to back you and do all the marketing for you. So when it comes down to it, a strong main event is one that has stakes, uniqueness, and uses its time wisely to tell those higher levels of drama. We want that crowd leaving feeling like they've seen something special, but they won't feel it unless you do too. That's another episode of World Beater Wrestling, and of course I'd love to hear from you. What do you think makes a main event special? Drop it in the comments box below. If you're here on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. I have episodes here every single week. I'll see you next week for another episode of World Beater Wrestling.